It's the amazing Rico Brogna podcast with your host, Evan Roberts.
Well, we woke up in a time warp. We went to sleep, we woke up, we were excited for a big game, and we woke up in 1998. How does that feel? Or we woke up in 1999, or we woke up in 2000, or 2001, or maybe we woke up in 2022.
Evan Roberts.
Don't F with me and play the intro 100 times, Pete. We have woken up and we are watching the same crap we've always watched against the Atlanta Braves. Where do you want to start? You want to start with the lifeless at-bats? You want to start with the pathetic at-bats? You want to start with the fact that the Mets never even put a rally together against Spencer Schwellenbach, who's had a nice rookie season, but I'm in no mood to give flowers. Want to start with that? Want to start with the limp dick offense? We can go with that. Want to start with the fact that when Orlando Arcia boots a ball in the third inning and the Mets are set up with a golden opportunity, 2 on, 2 out, 0-0 game, Starling Marte, who looked just done, meekly grounded out to third base? We could go to that. We can go to Jesse Winker hitting weak pop-ups. We can go to Pete Alonso doing nothing. I mean, honestly, nobody did anything. I mean, the one guy offensively you can give some credit to is Mark Vientos, who smoked a single and hit a home run. But outside of that, the Met bats completely no-showed the biggest game of the season. So we can rip the offense, or we could go to big game 7. Big game Luis Severino. Remember his time with the Yankees? All those wonderfully clutch performances he had? I think there was a sign very early in this game that Luis Severino was going to struggle, and I think that sign came immediately. The first at-bat of the game against Michael Harris. It turned into a 9-pitch at-bat. Sevy could not put him away as much as he tried. Harris kept fouling pitch after pitch after pitch off, and then finally he ripped a single to center field. And maybe it didn't feel like a big deal because Sevy got through the inning, but that was Luis Severino all night. He could not put people away. He had a good second inning. That was encouraging. And then we ran into the disaster that was the third. And there are a lot of mistakes this team made, a ton of them. And I think that's the part that just makes you want to rip your hair out. You can't make these mistakes against the Braves. They always make these mistakes against the Braves, and they add up because the Braves have too many good players. So on a little tapper by Orlando Arcia, you've got Severino and Francisco Alvarez completely miscommunicating. It's mostly on Alvarez. He got in Severino's way. Once they're colliding with each other, don't even throw to first base if you're Sevy. But he does. It gets by Pete Alonso, and the Braves are set up with a runner on second and nobody out. And you gave them a free runner in scoring position. And then Michael Harris, who was the unquestioned star of the game this side of Spencer Schwellenbach, immediately rips a double to right field. But here's mistake number 2. And because this offense did nothing, I guess it's easy to forget these little mistakes. But when Ozzie Albies, who also swung at the first pitch and hit a little ground ball through the hole in right field, what is Starling Marte doing throwing home? What was that? When I talk about the bad performance by individual players, Starling Marte jumps out at me. Not only does his at-bats suck, but on that base hit by Albies, as the Braves are about to go up 2-0, there's nobody out. Why are you throwing home? What was that about? Pete Alonso was going to need to be 10 feet tall to stop that throw, to cut that throw off. And instead it goes through. Albies is on second base. And it leads to the Braves tacking on a cheapy run when Ramon Laureano hit, 45-mile-per-hour exit velo? A little dumper into right field for a base hit. But it's the little things like that. Sevy didn't get bombed in the third inning. He honestly only gave up one ball that was hit hard, and that's the Michael Harris double. But a lot of little mistakes. A lot of little mistakes, and man, do they add up. And I am so sick and tired of seeing these same goddamn mistakes against this team in that city with that annoying chant. I mean, I think a part of the problem, and I'm going to try to talk as rationally as I can, breaking down the game as I'm trying to do. But a part of me just can't stop thinking about every goddamn time this team has gone to Atlanta and failed. And you can speak rationally to me all day. Tiki did a good job of that. What does 1998 have to do with 2024? And the truth is nothing. Jay Payton having his head up his ass and trying to run on Andrew Jones on a Friday night in 1998 has nothing to do with Starling Marte throwing home. It has nothing to do with the fact that this offense did nothing in this game. But when you sit there, and I think we all can kind of feel this way in different ways, and you're watching this, and you're watching this kind of performance in which they never had a chance to win this game. I mean, you could have, if you wanted, shut the game off in the third inning. I don't think any of us did. You hold out hope that you're about to watch a miracle. But it's the same crap against this team and in this city. But anyhow, let me bounce back to trying to be rational of this game. Luis Severino didn't get pummeled in the third inning, but he made a lot of mistakes, or this team made a lot of mistakes that just add up and add up. And when you're down 3-0 to the Atlanta Braves, it shouldn't be the end of the world. But with this offense, it felt like a million runs. And then he gives up a home run to Michael Harris, and he's ahead of the count. He gives up a home run to Michael Harris. He's ahead 1-2. Then Carlos Mendoza, and I can't blame him. He doesn't know what's going to happen over the next few days. I think we could just assume they're not going to play. But Mendy's not going to empty his high-leverage bullpen arms in the fifth inning. The problem was Severino threw so many freaking pitches, gave up the 4 runs in 4 innings, that he had no choice but to take him out. And if you're going into the bullpen in the fifth inning, for everyone who's going to rip all the crap arms he went to, who do you want to go to? Where do you want to go? You want to go to Jose Quintana because you think he may not need to be pitching until Friday, and maybe he doesn't even pitch Friday because that creates a lot of questions if there's rainouts. You want to go to Jose Quintana in a spot like that down 4-0? You want to do that? You want to go to Huascar Brazoban 1 inning early? I probably would have done that, by the way. I think I would have gone to Brazoban before I went to Ryan Stanek. But the truth is, as frustrating as it was to see Ryan Stanek give up a home run to that horrible human being, Marcell Ozuna, it was too late. It was too late. I mean, the bullpen could have gone lockdown from the fifth inning on. It was going to take this offense waking up. It was going to take this offense hitting Spencer Schwellenbach. And you knew that wasn't going to happen. And it didn't happen. So, very mediocre start by Luis Severino. Again, a lot of it was bad luck, but sometimes you create your own bad luck. He's the one who made the wild throw to first base. He's the one that gave up a smoke double to Michael Harris. I know some of the other hits were not hit very hard, and a lot of it was bad luck. The Ramon Laureano hit was bad luck, but you kind of created the mess. And the Mets are down big. This offense, though, was just, it was putrid to watch. They never put a rally together against Spencer Schwellenbach. Not a rally. The only remnants, I don't even know, of any kind of rally, I'm spitting food out of my mouth, I apologize, that we saw was when Pete Alonso drew a leadoff walk in the second inning. Great, let's have a party. Jesse Winker had horrible at-bats. Vientos struck out in that spot. Tyrone Taylor had a soft night, and so they wasted that opportunity away. Then they're given that great opportunity I talked about earlier when Orlando Arcia boots a ground ball by Brandon Nimmo and Starling Marte meekly grounds out to third. They get a 2-out hit from Mark Vientos in the fourth inning, nothing. The Braves played some great defense in this game, including that incredible diving play by Michael Harris, robbing Luis Angel Acuna of a hit. But they let Spencer Schwellenbach kind of groove. He makes the one mistake to Mark Vientos in which he went opposite field to make a 5-0 game 5-1. And then I thought for a second, for a tiny itsy-bitsy second, when Acuna got the leadoff hit in the eighth against Jimenez on a play Arcia probably should have made. It should have been called an error. But as Gary Cohn said on the broadcast, there's an official score. We can write whatever we want in our book. I'm just going to write down what they tell me for the most part. Runner on first, nobody out, down by 4 runs, top of the order coming up. Maybe we put something together. Iglesias strikes out. Nimmo hits that smoker that Matt Olson knocks down and is able to get the out at first base. And then Starling Marte, who was a walking corpse today, strikes out very easily and meekly. And to make matters worse, I call this the icing on the cake of this disaster. Because, look, the game was far and away over by the time we got to the ninth inning and Brian Snitker decided to go to Raisel Iglesias, which I understand why he did it. He's not screwing around. He's got a 4-run lead. Put the hammer down. Plus, he knows they're not playing tomorrow or Thursday. In fact, the Braves probably already told him. He probably already had the memo. All right, we're not playing the next 2 days, so I'm not going to mess around. I'm going to go to my closer, the same guy he went to on Sunday for a 6-out save. And Pete Alonso, Pete, what the hell are you doing down by 4 runs swinging at the first pitch? Keith Hernandez tried to be nice. You could tell, if you go back and listen to this, he wanted to say something. He wanted to say, what the F are you doing down by 4 runs swinging at the first pitch? But he bit his tongue. Well, I'm not going to bite my tongue. If you are swinging at the first pitch down by 4 runs in the ninth inning, there's only 2 things that are going on. Either you're an idiot or you're selfish. I love Pete, so I don't think he's selfish, so I'm going to go with idiot. Loving idiot. I say that with love. You cannot, and too many people do this, which again, you take your choice. Idiot or selfish. And maybe each individual player, you go back and forth on where they qualify. But when you're down by 4 runs in the ninth inning, swinging at the first pitch does you no good. You could hit a home run. What does it mean? You could rip a double. What does it mean? You're getting on base. That's great. But take a pitch. This is a guy who just pitched 2 innings 2 days earlier. Take a pitch. And then Jesse Winker, who was awful in this game, and don't get, it was a check swing. How's that an excuse? If you're check swinging, your intent is to swing, and then you stop. You didn't change your mind because, we're down by 4 runs in the ninth inning. You changed your mind because you didn't think you could hit the ball. That's why you check swing. So Jesse Winker, with 1 out and nobody on, down by 4 runs, right after he saw Pete Alonso do it, does the same damn thing. You are down by 4 runs in the ninth inning, and we had to witness. I get it. It wouldn't have mattered. I understand. But you're down by 4 runs in the ninth inning, and you've got back-to-back guys swinging at the first pitch. What, are they excited to go to the strip club? What, are they excited to get the hell out of Atlanta? There are many ways you can lose. Many ways. As we know full well, there are many ways you can lose. There are many ways they could lose to the Atlanta Braves, a team that they never, ever beat in a big spot. Whether it's 2022, whether it's 2001, whether it's 1999, it doesn't matter the year. This franchise never beats the Braves in a big spot, especially in Atlanta. There are a lot of ways to lose. There's a lot of painful ways to lose. They could have blown a game tonight. Edwin Diaz could have given up a walk-off grand slam to Matt Olson. And I'm not telling you that wouldn't have been more painful. Of course it would have been. But this was the most discouraging. And I am so happy for Gary Cohen. Now, he did it very nicely. But when Steve Gelbs is saying into a microphone, it's very different than 2022. Because in 2022, they weren't having fun. And Brandon Nimmo said, I was so nervous. And Pete Alonso said, we were pressing. Those are stories you tell after the fact. Were they pressing tonight, Steve? Were they pressing tonight, Brandon? Were you pressing tonight, Pete? So you guys, all 3 of you, can tell me all day about how different 2022 is. It didn't look any different tonight. There was not a damn difference. Not a difference from Pete Alonso, who went a very quiet 0 for 3. Not a difference from Brandon Nimmo, who went 0 for 4. And I am so sick and tired about altering history about 2022. Here's the facts about what happened in 2022. They had a great year. A fantastic year. Now you tell me they pressed and they were stiff and they weren't having fun. Bullshit. They were having fun. They were winning 100 games. They had a ton of great wins. But they got their ass kicked in Atlanta when it mattered the most. So after the fact, we all start talking about, they were stiff. They weren't having fun. They pressed. Nobody said that going into Atlanta. Not a damn person said that. Nobody thought this team would choke the way they did in 2022. But because they did, we explain it. And we explain it by, they weren't having fun that year. It just, it wasn't fun. Yeah, it wasn't fun when they were cruising to 100 wins. That was horrible. It is a story we tell to explain what happened. And I'm not bitter about, well, I am bitter about 2022. I shouldn't say I'm not. But to now insult my intelligence and all of our intelligence by saying, well, this is different. You know what? You want it to be different? Prove it's different. Prove it's different. And as we sit here right now, yes, they're still in the driver's seat. Yes, they can still win a wild card. Of course they can. But you need to prove it's different, because everything we saw tonight, it's not different. Everything we saw tonight was the same. You want to tell me they pressed in 2022? What did they do tonight? Did they press tonight? Or was it just, tip your hat? They ran into a great starting pitcher. A guy who's made how many starts in the major leagues? As well as he's pitched. A guy who's never seen a big game until this one. And he went up against the guy in Luis Severino who's seen plenty of big games. Luis Severino has seen so many big games. There was actually a big game in which he forgot to start time. Buck Showalter's fault. Whatever excuse you want to come up with, you say that because they lost. We say that because they choked. This team can choke. I mean, they already gave you the first sign of it. They already gave you a preview, or should I say a redo, of what we witnessed a few years ago. And I think what's very, very frustrating, besides the obvious, besides everything I've laid out, is we don't know if they're going to play tomorrow. We don't know if they're going to play on Thursday. In fact, I think it's very unlikely they do any of that. And so it creates this, all right, they're going to go to Milwaukee. They're up by a game. Hopefully the Mets win those games. And then they probably, in all likelihood, have to come back to Atlanta and play potentially a doubleheader the day after the season ends. Is there anybody in their right mind who's confident about that? Now, I want to try to talk rationally about that. I want to talk rationally about what the hell you do with the pitching and what the Braves may do with the pitching and what that scenario may look like. I'm going to try, but I'm obviously disgusted. And I assume Pete Hoffman, who has been very positive through this run, who told me the other day, I think we're going to win the World Series. I assume, while you may still be positive and you have every right to be, I do assume you're disgusted.
Yeah, watching today, I'm disgusted 100%. Like I can't sugarcoat it. I mean, the third inning was atrocious. I really, honestly, I know that it was a rough first couple innings for Severino, but the not getting to the ball between Severino and Alvarez, that hiccup just sent us in a tailspin, and the rest was history. I mean, that inning just basically blew the whole game. And I said this, I got to be honest with you. You want to know, you said who was Mendy supposed to go to when they went to Ryan Stanek? I'll tell you who. And it was the guy that I said should never pitch another game for the Mets this year, Adam Ottavino, because the game was over. It was done. Why waste another arm? The game was completely done at that point in time.
Well, he went to see Mendy's got two levels of his bullpen. He's got the circle of trust and he's got the circle of crap. Okay. Those are the two levels. And your circle of crap is Brazoban and Stanek and Ottavino and the young boys, Danny and Alex Young. So what he did is he went to his crap guys. We didn't see Phil Maton. He actually had Phil Maton warming up because of the possibility of, hey, if the Mets can somehow rally and score some runs in the eighth inning and get this game close, he would have gone to Maton to pitch the bottom of the eighth inning. So he went to all of his low leverage guys. He stuck with Reed Garrett in the bullpen, kept him fresh for God knows when. Same with Jose Budo. Obviously, same with Edwin Diaz. I do want to point out because I'd be remiss not to bring this up. In the ninth inning, Francisco Lindor went out on deck to pinch hit for Tyrone Taylor. And that is absolutely a great sign. So it does feel like Lindor is close. I didn't think that early in the day because when Mike Puma tweets early, hey, Lindor's not in the lineup, and this is before the lineup was even posted, my thought was, oh, man, is it that bad that they're already ruling him out? They post the lineup, a lineup I had no problem with. I will make some changes moving forward, but at least for tonight going into the game, I didn't have a problem with the lineup. But then Lindor takes batting practice, which was an amazingly good sign because I don't think he's done that over the last week. I don't think he's seen live pitching. He takes batting practice, looks good apparently, hits some home runs, and then the further that he's close, the fact he came out to pinch hit. And it probably would have been nice for him to pinch hit, even in a game that was already decided, just for him to get an at-bat. But maybe I'm being too confident in saying this. I think we're going to see him now the next time they play, whether it's Wednesday or it's Friday. I do have a little bit more positivity towards the fact we're going to see Lindor based on the signs that we saw today.
Yeah, listen, I got to be honest with you. I wouldn't have put him in even to try to save the day tonight. But I think he's starting the next game. I think 100% because now, like I said, like they're only one game ahead. So it's important for him to get back in that lineup, and he has to.
One game ahead. Unfreaking believable. It shows you how important Sunday was, winning that game against the Phillies and maintaining a 2-game lead. So important. Let me get to a ton of your angry emails. All right. And then we'll get into what MLB's going to do and how the Mets should respond. Because this is not straightforward. It creates a lot of complications if the Mets are not playing on Wednesday or Thursday and are going to Milwaukee with the possibility and the likelihood of having to come back and play potentially 2 games against the Braves on Monday. I would assume if the Mets are forced to play 2 games on Monday against Atlanta, the playoffs have to be pushed back a day. They can do that because Friday is a built-in extra day before the divisional series. So if somehow the Mets and Braves are playing a doubleheader, somebody's advancing, whether it's the Mets or the Braves. I would assume they would go Wednesday, Thursday for the wild card series. And if there is a game 3, they play Friday. Maybe I'm being hopeful and I'm giving Major League Baseball way too much credit. All right, I'm going to go through a ton of these real quick. We'll comment. There's a lot of angry people. Trust me, I feel the same way. Let's go to Jesse Miller Dillon. We're also stupid for ever thinking something good would ever happen. Very quick and to the point, and I get it. Howard writes, Evan, I don't know whether to blame you or Mendy, who clearly listens to the Rico, for playing Starling Marte. 0 for 4 bad at-bats. As the data has shown us, he cannot hit righties anymore. He should not play against a right-hander pitcher again. To make it worse, he batted third. To make it worse, his absurd throw helped the Braves in that fateful inning. You are allowed to admit a mistake. No more Marte against righties. Hoff, make sure you let Evan know you were on record as opposing Evan on this critical issue. I own it. I wanted Marte to play. He sucked. I think he was the first guy I ripped in opening this Rico. So I wanted to play him. I didn't ask for him to bat third, okay? I think when I put my lineup together on the last Rico, I had him hitting like 5th or 6th, I think. I'm trying to remember. But what do you want me to do? It's my fault that Starling Marte sucked. I would have played him. Now, there are lefties coming up, assuming they play. I would play him against the lefties, but fine. Howard wants to get his blood on me. He's got his blood on me.
Well, you said it last episode. Carlos Mendoza clearly listens to the podcast, so we took your advice on Starling Marte. So it's your fault.
It's all my fault. Curtis writes, accepting defeat or goddamn the Mets. The Mets looked and played scared, defended scared, hit scared, pitched scared. Who will lead this team? J.D. Martinez is in the slump of a lifetime. Pete is fighting himself. Nimmo is a question. Is Lindor even available? Someone has to take the torch and guide this team through the storm, and the Braves get every conceivable bounce. God hates the Mets. This is not fun. I'm not blaming God here, okay? Because the baseball gods gave the Mets a huge break on Sunday with the ball that hit third base. That was a monstrous break. So this is not the baseball gods' fault. This is the Mets' fault. I never felt the Braves got every break. Why? Because of the line drive that Olsen knocked down or the ball that went off the pitcher and then Arcia made a good play on? You know what I call that? I call that the Braves making plays. And what did the Mets do? Did the Mets make plays? Luis Angel Acuna, very early in this game, blew an opportunity to turn a double play against Ozzie Albies. Luckily, Luis Severino made it not matter, but the Mets didn't make plays, and the Atlanta Braves did make plays. Negative Dan. It's time for Francisco Lindor to nut up. This team already looks completely dejected, defeated, and castrated, while the Braves couldn't look more comfortable, like they've been waiting for this series all year and we're flying headfirst into our 700th run of the same movie from hell. So I'm sorry, Frankie, but time's up. You're needed. We can't talk about how humongous this series is on every possible level, both on the field and for the psyches, and not have your MVP candidate and best player, whose scans are showing no structural damage, not be a part of it. That's if they're even able to play the next 2 days. If it's his franchise, now like everyone says, then he needs to get himself in there even if he's in pain. Albies is literally playing with a broken wrist. They held him out as long as they could, but your cushion is gone now, and he needs to be there until he physically can't go anymore. If you don't pull out all the stops now, you're in danger of not only tanking this season, but just cementing the fact that this group cannot mentally handle these situations. You can't keep talking about how it's different and not the same team when you still have Pete, Nimmo, Lindor, Marte, even though he didn't play in 2022. Marte did not play in that series, at least. We're letting the same thing happen again. Unacceptable. I'll have to ask Tiki this question because I never love basically telling an athlete who's hurt, who said and admitted, I couldn't bend over a week ago. Boy, you better be out there. But there is no structural damage, and it's fair. Like, there's an injury. Certainly, his back is paining him, but there's no actual, hey, we got an MRI and it says this. And a lot of that's the back. The back's a complicated thing. But I trust Lindor. I don't trust Lindor to go 5 for 5. I don't trust Lindor to lead this team to a series victory, but I trust that Francisco Lindor is doing everything to be on the field. And the fact that he was ready to pinch hit shows me that he will be on the field. Casey writes, this is a complete disaster. This could not possibly be worse. A complete no-show by the offense. Sevy couldn't put anybody away. A pathetic defensive display, and nothing feels different than any other year. This team is different. They're resilient. I believe in this team. That's what I've been told. Well, guess what? Until I see it, I won't believe it. This is the same old shit we've seen every single time. You could put the 27 Yankees in Mets uniforms, and as soon as they see the damn tomahawk, they'd wilt like a bunch of losers. To make matters worse, they'll have to sit in Atlanta for 2 days and stew over it because Major League Baseball is run by a bunch of imbeciles. The second 2 games of this series should have been moved to a neutral site, no question. Can't wait to come back and play a doubleheader in hell for our playoff lives. That'll be fun. What a pathetic performance. They're different, my ass. Yeah. I gave you the they're different crap. I'm with you. Giuseppe writes, hey, Ev, Hoff, I don't know why you guys were expecting anything different. This is so aggravating. I just don't understand why the baseball gods continue to point and laugh at us every time we go down to Atlanta like they forgot what they've been doing all year. Of course, Severino chokes, and of course, the lineup forgets how to hit. Why, as Met fans, do we expect anything else? I'm sick and tired of it. We're not blaming the baseball gods. It's not the baseball gods. It's the Mets. It's them. It's their fault. We can't blame the baseball gods. I love this one. This email by JC, who wrote the email at 7:40 p.m. is perfect. Remember, the game started at 7:20. He wrote this email at 7:40. Evan, why is it only the first inning and I'm already in panic? This series may be the death of me. I'm only laughing because I feel you, bro. I felt the same way. We really need to exercise these demons. If we cannot win the first game, if we can win the first game, I'll feel so much better. I cannot handle the next 2 games getting canceled and moved to next week and the entire season hinging on a doubleheader against the Braves. I am praying to the baseball gods. Please let us win. He followed this up an hour later. I was really hoping I would send this email and it would be a reverse jinx. The Mets would come up and score 6 runs and we could breathe. Now it feels like I'm being crushed. I know it's only one game, but why does it hurt so much? Why does that creeping feeling of despair always come back? This season cannot end at the hands of the Braves. 4 innings to go. Please turn this around. Yeah. Well, it didn't. It didn't turn around. All right. Here's the deal. They are not playing on Wednesday and Thursday. I've been analyzing the Weather Channel forecast way too much, and there's no shot they're playing, okay? There's like a 98% chance of rain all day Wednesday, and then literally a hurricane on Thursday. So Major League Baseball should, in my opinion, move a game to a neutral site. Wednesday is probably too late. They're certainly not going to do it for Wednesday, but for Thursday, and if you don't want to play a doubleheader, you don't have to play a doubleheader, because I think having one game that you may have to play Monday is more bearable than the idea of a doubleheader. Because I want you to think about this for a second, and I'm going to ignore the Diamondback aspect of this. It is overwhelmingly likely that the Mets and the Braves have to play at least one game on Monday with the possibility of playing 2. Right now, the Mets have a 1-game lead. We do not know about the tiebreaker. The only way the Mets can win the tiebreaker is by winning 2 games against Atlanta. If the Mets have a 1-game lead, they have to come back and play the Braves. If the Mets have a 2-game lead, they have to come back and play the Braves. If the Mets and Braves are tied, they've got to come back and play the Braves. If the Mets are 1 game behind, they have to come back and play the Braves. If the Mets are 2 games behind, which, by the way, assuming they don't play the next 2 games, is literally the worst case scenario. That would mean the Mets go to Milwaukee and get swept. The Braves sweep Kansas City. The Mets would be 2 games out. The season would not be over. They would then have to come back to Atlanta, and if they could win 2 games, they'd make the playoffs. Obviously, Arizona adds a wrinkle to this because they're in the middle of the Mets and Atlanta right now. The point is, my point of saying that is it is very likely that they're going to need these 2 games. If they rain these 2 games out, the only way, at least from the Mets mattering standpoint, that they wouldn't have to come back here is if they had a 3-game lead, which means they'd have to sweep the Brewers and the Braves would have to lose 2 out of 3. Could that happen? I guess it could. And then, by the way, the Mets may still have to come back, not for their sake, but for the Braves' sake, because they're in a race with the Diamondbacks. So Major League Baseball has completely effed this up already. They should have done something, really, Pete, your idea about going neutral site. They could have had more foresight and played on Monday when there was a common off day. I know that's well in advance, and maybe they just didn't have as much confidence in the forecast then. They could have played a doubleheader today. I'm actually glad they didn't, because based on what happened today, it probably would have been very ugly. But I just don't see how they're playing in Atlanta Wednesday or Thursday. So unless they go neutral site, we're just going to skip our way to Friday, which creates a lot of pitching issues that I do want to get into and pitching decisions that we're going to have to get into, and then come back and play a doubleheader. It is a complete, utter mess, and I'm not sure how Major League Baseball is going to fix it.
Evan, it's amazing. Only the Mets in 162 games of the season are going to have to go through 5 games of hell, because, like you said, it's whether they play 1 game here, they got to play 1 game on Monday, whether they have to travel somewhere for a Thursday game. 162 games, and the final 5 for the biggest, to find out if they're going to make the playoffs, it's chaos. Only the New York Mets. I don't know any other team that has to go through this crap.
Well, the Braves.
Yeah, well.
I guess the only advantage off the Braves have is that they're home the entire time. So they may have to play a lot, but unless they're being moved to a neutral site, they don't have to travel. I want you to think about this. And this exercise is very, very difficult. We'll do a lot more of this because we'll do Rico's even with these rainouts coming to kind of analyze what they should do. But the pitching thing is also blowing my mind. All right. If they don't play on Wednesday and Thursday, let's just assume MLB's not moving it. Nothing crazy happens. They're banging these 2 games Wednesday and Thursday, and then they're just going to Milwaukee. And Atlanta's going to Kansas City, and then we'll reevaluate what's needed on Monday. They may only have to play 1 game on Monday, depending on what happens. They may play 2. there's a small chance they don't have any, but I would say that's unlikely. The New York Mets have David Peterson. They have Sean Manaea. They have Jose Quintana. All of them lined up and ready to go. So let's say the Mets' reaction is, all right, let's just go with those three guys. We'll pitch David Peterson on Friday. We'll go Sean Manaea on Saturday, Jose Quintana on Sunday. Doesn't even matter the order. Go Manaea on Friday so that he would be available to pitch again, assuming this team makes the playoffs. So you've got Manaea on Friday, Quintana on Saturday, Peterson on Sunday. 3 straight lefties against the Brewers. I think we probably agree that's the way to go. Now you get to Monday. You can come back with Luis Severino, whose actual day to pitch would be Sunday, but they got to get these guys in, and maybe they don't want them to sit that long. Who pitches the second game of the doubleheader? The answer is Tylor Megill. Okay, let's say you've got to do all of that. And then, because baseball's run by idiots, the Mets open up the playoffs on Tuesday. They literally would not have a starting pitcher available on regular rest to pitch on Tuesday. They'd have nobody. They'd have to do a bullpen game. Or whoever pitches Friday would have to come back on short rest. That's the scenario Major League Baseball's lining up. And it goes for the Braves too. The Braves probably say, all right, we can't mess around. Chris Sale on Friday night against Kansas City. Max Fried on Saturday against Kansas City. And then I guess they can come back with Spencer Schwellenbach on Sunday, or they hold him back from Monday since the Mets can't hit him. But you run into the same problem where if you've got to use 5 pitchers in 4 days and then start the playoffs the next day, the Braves would be in the same spot where they don't have a starting pitcher. So you can't consider that because you just have to find a way in. But that's the scenario that's being laid out. And I'm trying to give this like the proper thought. Here's exactly what I would do. I'll tell you exactly what I would do. I cannot screw around, but the games against Atlanta, because of the tiebreaker and because of the fact that the Mets are playing the Braves on Monday with their season alive. Like, there's no scenario where, well, the Mets lose on Friday and they lose against Milwaukee, and now they don't get a crack against Atlanta. They 1,000% will get 2 games against the Braves in the worstest case of scenarios where they have to win 2 games. So I'm starting to think, Pete, I don't pitch Sean Manaea. I hold him out. I say, screw it. I'm not having him face the Brewers. I have to have him face the Braves. He's my best starting pitcher. He's the guy I trust the most. So a part of me leans towards, and I don't want Sevy facing the Braves again. So a part of me leans towards, hear me out on this, over the weekend against the Brewers, pitching Tylor Megill, Jose Quintana, and let's say Luis Severino. Definitely Severino. Severino, Quintana, and Megill against the Brewers, so that when I play Atlanta, because again, the Mets have to play. The only way they don't play Atlanta means they've clinched a playoff spot. And maybe the Braves collapsed and the Diamondbacks clinched a playoff spot and the games aren't even needed. So I'm definitely playing them. I would want Sean Manaea and I'm trying to remember who I just said, the 3 guys, Quintana, Megill, and Severino. So I'd have Peterson and Manaea, who I already have scheduled for these 2 games, pitching against the Braves anyway. Now, you screw up their schedule, but everybody's schedule is going to be screwed up. If you're not playing for the next 2 days and you didn't play on Monday and you've already pushed Quintana back, you've already messed with everybody's schedule. So I think I would go Quintana Friday, Megill Saturday, Severino on Sunday, because God knows I don't want him seeing the Braves again, and then just holding off with Manaea and Peterson. I know that sounds nuts, but if that's the scenario the Mets are looking at, not playing the next 2 games, what are your other options? I don't want Tylor Megill against the Braves with our season on the line. Do you?
My brain hurts from what you just said, so
Thank you.
I have no idea. Yeah. Here's my argument to that, okay? You're making it sound like the Brewers aren't going to play the three-game series versus the Mets. Why do you think they're just going to roll up and they're not playing for anything?
I'm not. See, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the games against the Braves are more important because there is no scenario, hear me out on this, where the Mets lose against Milwaukee and miss their opportunity to play Atlanta. Like, let's say the Mets got swept by the Brewers, right? Just hear me out. They're not playing the next 2 days. They get swept by the Brewers, and the Braves sweep Kansas City. The Mets are 2 games back now. They got 2 games against the Braves on Monday. They win those 2 games. Tiebreaker. Good night. Mets make the playoffs. So there's no, it's not that the games don't matter, Hoff. Of course they do. Every game matters. If you could go in to the Atlanta series with a 2-game lead, all you got to do is win 1 time. And then you don't have to even play a second game. You could win the first game of the doubleheader and call it a day. But you know you're facing them. You know in the worst case scenario, you're back in Atlanta needing to beat them 2 times in a row. Why wouldn't you want your 2 best starting pitchers or 2 of your best starting pitchers facing the Atlanta Braves? So it's not forgetting the Brewers, Pete. It's these games are going to have to be played.
I know, but it's a double-edged sword because here you go. If you do that, you set yourself up for Atlanta, but then what is your setup for the playoffs?
I can't think about that, bro.
I know, but I kind of want to do that too.
Dude, Pete, they are effed. If Major League Baseball, I want to make this very clear because Major League Baseball better understand this. Sometimes I wonder if they even do. If the Mets and the Braves are forced to play a doubleheader that matters on Monday and then forced to open up the playoffs the following day, the Mets and the Braves are completely hosed when it comes to pitching. There's nothing you could do about it because the Braves are going to pitch their best starters against Kansas City and the Mets. They're going to throw Chris Sale and Max Fried and Spencer Schwellenbach, and then they'll be forced to throw Charlie Morton and Grant Holmes, their other starting pitchers. Like, they have to. That's why I'm holding out hope that if baseball goes down this road and they force this doubleheader on Monday, they got to push the playoffs back to Wednesday. If they do that, Pete, whoever starts Friday could at least come back and pitch game 1 of the wild card series. So in the Mets case, let's say it's Quintana. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, bang, Wednesday. Game 1, he's good to go. Whoever pitched the Saturday game against the Brewers, in my case, Tyler McGill, not exactly ideal, he could at least come back. It's all crap. It's not fair to the Mets or the Braves, but that's the reality we're facing if they don't play in the next 2 days. And unless they come out with an announcement that they're playing a doubleheader on Thursday night at a neutral site, which is, look, I would play 1 game at a neutral site Thursday, and then if you have to come back Monday, it's only 1 game. And it also limits the possibility you have to come back Monday because you eliminate a lot of scenarios by getting that second game in. That's why, to me, it's important to just get at least 1 more game in, and having to come back on Monday is less horrific if you know you don't have to play 2 games.
I have the solution.
Go.
Okay? And they don't have to leave Atlanta. Okay? You go to Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Someone said that to me today too. I think Sean told me that. Like, just go to Mercedes-Benz.
Just do it. It's not like they've never done it before. Not like you never played a baseball game in a football arena. Hello, the Raiders, for how many decades?
I think the problem you're missing, Pete, is that a hurricane is hitting Atlanta and the governor has already announced the state of emergency. So even if they played in a dome, there was a chance these games would actually be canceled anyway, believe it or not.
You know what? Not for nothing. There's no better place to be than a dome during a hurricane, from what I understand.
If they want to move it to New York, we'll gladly buy tickets.
Yeah. Please, I'm doing nothing. Let's go. If these games get canceled tomorrow and Thursday, we're literally doing nothing but biting our fingernails till Friday comes.
Yeah, you know what we're doing? We're reliving all the horrible moments against the Braves and game planning this rotation plan, because this idea I have, which I'm sure most people listening are like, it doesn't even make sense. What are you talking about? Because none of this sounds real. The idea of they're not going to play Wednesday and Thursday, and now they're playing Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and worst case scenario, they got to play 2 games on Monday and then open the playoffs on Tuesday if they make the playoffs. Like, it's very tough to kind of wrap your head around it. That's why my initial idea on how I'd handle the rotation sounds kooky, but I'm just trying to put this team in the best position to win. And they complicated this. They did. Because if they won this game tonight and they were up by 3 games, there would be an easier road to finishing the job. Because if they had won tonight and opened up a 3-game lead, all they would have needed to have done was maintain that lead in Milwaukee, and they would not have to come back to Atlanta. But the Mets blew that opportunity. And at least for one night, they just reminded us of the same crap we have seen. whether it's 2022 or it's 1998 or it's 1999, the same exact crap. I'm going to go to sleep. I'm going to try to go to sleep. I hope all of you try to go to sleep. We promise you this, no matter what happens with these rainouts or games, we will have a Rico Brogna on Wednesday to at least react to what the plan is, assuming Major League Baseball even gives us one, and game plan other ideas on how the Mets have to attack this, and also what the lineup should be, and really just praying to the baseball gods that what we saw to open this series is just like a preview of a nightmare that actually we're not going to see. But right now, my confidence level is not high. We appreciate you downloading, watching, and subscribing for the first time in a while. A very negative, pissed off, and downright scared edition of Rico Brogna.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Rico Brogna podcast. It's amazing, isn't it? Make sure you download it now to keep it on you at all times.